Hello, Dr. Anand. How are you?
Hi, Heather. Hi. Lovely to hear from you and see you. It's lovely to
Yes,
see you.
yes,
It's visually so happy to see you as if you're in my room. It's lovely. Go on. How are you?
better. So the fever has settled,
Uh-huh.
but the cough is still there, and I've been having some chest tightness as well, which is quite interesting. I
Uh,
haven't had
uh.
that at all, um, but it feels more like a kind of a like an anxiety tightening rather than a respiratory tightening. So I
Yeah,
can
but
take deep breaths in.
when I get my dental injection for tooth or whatever, they have a bit of adrenaline for preventing bleeding, isn't it?
Mm,
My heart starts thumping and I start
mm,
feeling anxious.
mm.
I have nothing to be anxious about. I know my dentist for 30 years and it's only a filling. But it's a funny feeling, isn't it? Because you know you're not anxious, and yet your body is saying, "Yes, you are anxious." It's a
Yeah. I mean, I get that feeling when
cognitive
I.
dissonance. Yes,
Yeah, I
yes.
mean, I get that feeling when I see the wife sometimes. But hey, I guess I thought you'd get used to this, but apparently you don't. After all these years of
Yes,
marriage, um,
yes.
and
So
we thought we'd get used to this
no, well,
kind of sort of virus.
that brings us
Vi-
sweetly to the topic of stress. Nothing to do with the wife. It just
well,
happens to be a topic.
yeah,
So I've been researching stress for a long time.
yeah,
In 1970, I got the book called "I'm Okay, You're Okay," and how to make friends and influence people. So as a doctor, I then started looking at the human side much more strongly than learning the latest chemical, the latest drug, the latest technology. And since I've been in the UK, I've always wanted to be a GP. I had a very lovely consultant in Barrow-in-Furness, absolutely sweet, Mr. Richards. And he was so nice, but he looked old and tired and haggard. And at the age of 56, he had his first kid. And I went to my Pakistani friend's GP's home. It was lovely and lush. He looked happy, wife looked happy, two lovely kids, posh new car. I said, I want to be a GP. I cannot be bothered to be a surgeon. I didn't know in India what a GP was actually. And I thought, no, this is good. And because it was Barrow in a nice open place, people were really nice, honestly. Nobody was rushed off their feet. They were nice to me. And I started looking at the human side of medicine, not just technology, like real heart to heart, not bedside manners, but love, simply love. I love people. I realize I love people. I mean, what's your point of view
yeah. I
on
mean, I
this?
totally agree. I think what's important is that we realize that we all are human beings, and human beings excel and flourish with human interaction and human relationships.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
the best relationships we have in life are are the ones where we exchange these what we call soft skills, which is
Yes.
compassion, love,
Yes.
understanding, non-judgment. I mean,
Yes. Absolutely.
these aren't secondary skills; these are primary skills.
Absolutely.
And
And you're one
and
of those rare doctors who says this. I'm very, that is why I'm so connected with you.
yeah,
That, our job is to make friends with people.
yeah,
And also technology comes in. I mean, obviously, someone allergic to penicillin, you won't give them ampicillin and kill them off.
sure.
You need to know that. But 99% of what I've learned in my medical school in India is totally out of date and irrelevant to general practice, at least.
I mean, if we look at the physicians of the past, they were polymaths.
Yes,
There were
yes,
philosophers, there were
yes, yes,
poets, there were
yes,
artists, there were creative
yes,
beings, and they
absolutely.
understand that the art of healing requires a lot of different disciplines.
Yes,
And for you to say that it's only drugs or it's only this
no,
protocol or
no,
this procedure or this operation will get rid of your condition. And as you know, the human being
yes,
is made up of the physical, the psychological, and the spiritual.
absolutely,
So we should
absolutely.
be open to all of these aspects.
So, being a new doctor here, I decided not to wear a white coat and be stuck in the hospital
Yeah.
and become a specialist in some abstruse thing. So I did a few very interesting things. I believe not in luck. I believe God gives you choices. It's which ones you take. I never plan. It just happens. So, for instance, in Freeman Hospital, one doctor, a urologist, English doctor, Dr. Day, came to me and said, the interviews are going on downstairs. I said, what for? GP training. He said, but I've been told to, I'll get the job. So he knew it was his job. but you should come for the interview. So I went downstairs to the vocational training scheme counter and I said, I want to apply. Well, tomorrow is the last day and it has to be typewritten. I said, okay, we'll deal with that. I went home. I had a typewriter at home. I came from India with a portable Remington Rand, little baby typewriter. I did the typing in my lunch break, and within an hour, I gave it to them. They were almost horrified, saying, how did you do this? I'm talking about 1979, early 1980.
Wow.
So they were shocked. I mean, there was no word processors, there was no computers, there was no WhatsApp, there was none of this stuff. And I went for the interview, and Colin Leon, a Jewish guy, and Jewish people are very kind to foreigners because they've suffered racism themselves. So they're very compassionate to us. So he said, what made you come to Britain? I said, money.
Yeah. Honesty.
Yeah, straight away. So he said, what if I put a billboard in Calcutta? Would I get patients? I said, look, unless there's a waiting list, nobody goes for private care, just like in this country. So he knew I could stand up for myself and speak as it was. And then after the interview, he said, yes, you can have this job in August. So I said, can I apply for other jobs? He said, yes. How do you feel? He says. I said, I can take on any job. So I went to Lancashire for an interview in Whittingham Hospital. And there were 14 doctors, one English and I think 11 Indian. And the two lady consultants says, you're the only one that hasn't had any medical training in psychiatry in the UK.
Yeah.
So I said, can I ask you a question? And I did the rule of 3. Is this a training post? They said, yes. Am I the least trained? They said, yes. So I'm the most fit, aren't I? And they took me.
That's
It actually works. I mean, I didn't know NLP and all that then, but you develop that skill.
Well, I think you trust yourself and you're honest with yourself. And, once you're trustworthy and you trust your instinct, it becomes second nature.
And then you trust other people.
Yeah. I mean, your experience depends on yourself.
Yes.
So if you give yourself enough self-compassion, you'll be compassionate to other people. If you're honest with yourself, you'll be honest with other people.
Wow. Love thy neighbor as thyself. So you have to love yourself.
So, I mean, this is an internal process. And, the more you create an internal process, an internal environment, which talks to your real self rather than your psychological self, rather than your mind, then it's a self-prophesizing sort of system. And then and then you just go with the flow. Rather than going with your mind and with your thoughts, because thoughts really come from your environment. So unless your environment is good, you do actually get
beautiful.
You do actually get quite virulent thoughts from your environment. And at the moment, we're living in quite virulent ideology. Yeah.
Yes, ideas.
Yeah.
Didn't Descartes say, I think, therefore I am? And I said, no, I am, therefore I am. I also think occasionally.
Well, that's come from the sort of logical religion that sort of came after the so-called Enlightenment. But then the reason why the Enlightenment happened was because Christianity allowed free thinking. So, because Christianity developed, it actually developed into its own downfall because it allowed for free thinking. And then through this free thinking came the logic ideology. But that's not deep enough, you see, because a human being has a deep psyche, which we all connect to. Now we're talking over the internet, yet we're connected, spiritually more than psychologically, because we feel each other.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's not something we can really explain on a scientific and physical level, but we understand it on a spiritual level. If
you take the science of it, Professor Maharabian in America said text is only 7% communication. Only 7. If people have a divorce, they know, I didn't mean that, but the text says so. So you can look at a text in a million ways. You add tone. How are you, Heather? How are you, Heather? They're completely different communications, aren't they? On text, it is, how are you, Heather? How are you, Heather? Heather, how are you today? How are you today? How are you today? They all have completely different shades of meaning. So if you add tonality of voice, it makes it 38 plus 7, 45%. And if you face to face, and even now you and I are face to face, but not fully integrated, unless we are within striking distance, unless you are within 10 feet, our hearts don't resonate. And we'll talk about heart rate variability sometime, which I spent a lot of money on, lost a lot of money on. And I really studied it. I've done like a PhD on it. I went to America, studied it. So these things, and if you look at the ancient Hindu tradition, you got 7 chakras. Now, whether they're physical chakras or just ideas, I don't care.
Yeah.
Even as ideas, it helps us understand. So the root chakra is just about survival. Then the next chakra, base chakra, is about reproduction and growth and so on. There is a solar plexus about power.
Yeah.
Come to the heart chakra. It is the middle of all chakras. Do you know the color of the heart chakra?
Is it green?
Yes.
Yes.
So, and green is nature. Green, Muslims really respect the color green. Subs.
I've got my green, jumper on.
Yes, good.
And my green mug.
Right. Okay. So green, and then there's the throat chakra, is about expressing yourself. Yeah. Like we are expressing to each other. Yeah. It can be through painting, through dance, through drama, through music. And doctors, many doctors and medical students have taught, they're all good in violin or cello or sports or drama or painting. They all need, not only have that, but they need it. We started by saying doctors need to be a fully rounded person. And then there's the 6th chakra, which is about your view of the world. What are we about? What are humans about? What should we be about? And finally, spiritual, where all this doesn't matter. Now, it doesn't have to be anything physical that you measure. It's like someone dies and his weight is less by 1 gram. So the soul weighs 1 gram. I mean, come on. It's another dimension. You can't weigh the soul in kilograms.
Yeah, I mean, there's different measures for different things, and we can't measure and, different also, scales. Yeah.
Also in medicine, we make what is measurable important, and what is difficult to measure, the soft skills, we say that is not important. So I did the first research ever with the Royal College of GPs, and I got 1,500 pounds, and I think 1985, on GPs' attitudes to psychological illness and how it affects their job satisfaction. And I spent so much time, and I'm a bit of a fanatic, I went to learn SPSSX on the computers. It was just too much. I had lending lab. I spent all my money in reading all the books about questionnaire design. Anyway, I actually interviewed 75 doctors. It's not easy, for a full-time new young doctor, junior partner. Shaban, I'm live on air. I'll bring you back. Okay. Somebody looking for help. So I was saying, I spent all that, and I knew that doctors who taught medicine, doctors who were interested in other things, the bright people like you, were still happy, tappy, chappy. I mean, you've been in medicine long enough to be bored and jaded, but you found your ken. You love people, you serve them, you go on Zoom, you have the courage to talk about it, instead of just being the quiet, hidden.
I mean, what's important here that you talk about is the process of creation.
Yes.
And the moment you have that mindset that creation is a process that's necessary for your own well-being, psychological and spiritual, then you start creating what you love. And when you start creating what you love, you start flowing, and and that's when the good stuff happens.
Well, the 2 girls who and a brother who used to come to my house to learn Indian classical music. Okay, the 2 girls, Shamanti and Shakti, they are about a year apart. They both went into medicine about 10 years ago together. I went to meet their father, who was talking about Harappa, the Indus Valley culture. He wrote a book about it, a fiction thing. I got so obsessed and taken up by it. I actually, a year and a half ago, went to Harappa. That is the birthplace of India, of Hindus, of Sindhus.
How did that make you feel?
I started crying. And this family said, "Why are you crying?" I said, "This is my birthplace." And the little boy says, "But this is Pakistan." I said, "Look, 6,000 years ago, there was no India or Pakistan. We were all the same. You didn't have passports. You didn't have visas." And he said, "Really?" And I pulled out a piece of not crockery, mud pot, and gave it to the boy. I said, "Show your teacher this tomorrow on Monday, and tell her this is 6,000 years old, and she'll laugh at you. She'll think you're joking. She won't believe it that this is 6,000 years old." So I must salute to government of Pakistan as much as they can. They are protecting it, They can say, "Oh, it's old Hindu stuff, wipe it out." They don't. They look after it as best they can in a poor country. So
there's lots of good people out there. You know, that's the thing. There's lots of very good people out there who want to bring people together, you know, who want to allow people to sort of discuss and have dialogue of their differences. And when we're allowed to have that, it opens our perspective. And as you know, reality depends on your perspective. So if you can
it's all perspective.
If you can expand your perspective, you actually expand your reality. And you know, I think we should be allowed as physicians to allow other people from different professions into our lives so that we understand their perspective.
Counselors, social workers, health visitors. So, you know, being a GP trainee, I learned about these things. I spent a day with the health visitor. I spent a day with the district nurse. I spent a day with the pharmacist. Even my senior was saying, my trainer was saying, why do you want to waste your time there? I said, I'm doing it in my own spare time. He said, why do you want to waste your time? But, you know, it came so handy. So when they asked in the Viva, in the Royal College of GPs, how does a health visitor get formed? I said, well, I don't know how health visitors are formed, but my health visitor, Sarah, went through that. You're laughing because you understand my technique.
Yeah.
I lead them the garden path to where I want them to be.
Yeah.
So I did that. And then I started the young practitioners group. Imagine a little Indian, 5'6", starting a young practitioner. And I ran.
I'm 5'6" as well. So, you know.
Oh, good. Yeah. We have two little runs. Small man complex.
Definitely. Small man, big mouth complex. Yeah. But, you know, you know what they say with you know, a man with a big mouth. They have big hands.
Yes. Let's not go down the body. And interestingly, we started videoing because English people are very shy of videoing. So I love videoing because English are shy.
Well, we're actors, you see.
Yeah, well, yeah, shameless, you know. So we filmed and there was a chap called Jonathan. He worked in a poor area called Ital Lane. Really poor area. He wore Jesus sandals and wore a t-shirt. So he looked all kind of very poor, purposely, lived in a posh place. And there was this boy that came and said something indicating that his mother's boyfriend would hit him. So he says, I suppose your putative father. I said, Jonathan, stop. I stopped the video. What is putative father? Why can't you say your mother's boyfriend? I know you're a good Christian and don't believe in live-in relationships, but you're not going to impose that on these little poor Georgies.
Yeah.
And that was his moment. And he hugged me after the show. He said, you're right.
Well, you know, you're a brave man, you see. You're a courageous man. Connection is unstable.
Speak with a posh accent. He called the chap who came from Hungary, the widow. It's a society. I just can't get his name. It'll come to me. How is that? You become very big and I've become very small. How did you do that? How did you manage that?
We lost the connection for a bit, but we're back now. Right. Yeah.
Oh no, that's okay. I'd rather see your big face and my small because I'm aware. So I started doing all these interesting things, and most of all, I joined a 2-year part-time course on counseling at Durham University.
Yeah.
Then I did NLP masters. So I'm always interested in soft skills. Then I started teaching medical students. It was an integrated approach to complementary therapies and its place in general practice. It was very successful. We had about 320 students and there were 360 courses. We used to get 16, 17. So we were 15, 60 times as popular as the other courses. And it was a 6-week course and they really enjoyed themselves. Really, really, really.
I mean, my question to you, question to you, why isn't it mainstream? Why don't they push for this, given that it works and it's helpful for a lot of people?
Why don't Muslims go to Hindu temple to pray?
So it's the leadership that stopped this?
Yes. Because their shops will get closed. The other thing is I was totally anti-pharma. I used to go on Mike Parr's BBC radio show and talk about music. I used to be called the singing doctor because I used to teach music in schools, Indian classical music. So I am very much I don't play or sing very beautifully, but I do enough to keep my hand in. Because music is also an expression, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Bathroom singing
Creation.
is perfect. You don't have to see. In the West, it's all commercialized. In India,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the West, they say, "Oh, he's only an amateur." In India, I say, "Oh, he doesn't charge any money. He does it for the love of it." It's the same thing, but our angle on it is different, isn't it?
Yes,
If anyone's
yes. I
doing
mean,
it for
there's a lot
love,
more respect over there for sure. I mean, when I was, doing my charity work in Iraq, I mean, I did it because I had the love for it,
hmm,
because it brought me
but you got
alive,
love back from it, isn't it?
and
It's
I
like,
got love back from it. Obviously, I got people who, they tended to be politicians. Oh, he's here for political gain. He's
yeah,
here
because
for,
they see it from their lens, they see it
yeah,
from their filters.
yeah. So that
Let
was
them,
quite,
let them.
that was quite interesting.
Yesterday, I got a video from a Pakistani journalist,
Hmm.
and I had scolded him saying, "Don't waste my time sending all these funny pictures." He
Hmm.
said, "No, this is about me on television talking about India." So I heard that, and he said, "If India can successfully contain the coronavirus as a much bigger country, why can't we Pakistanis learn from it?" So I titled it, put my bit saying, "In times of distress, enemies become friends."
Yeah.
And I added that and put it out. And he's put it out on his. So that's the way to break barriers.
Yeah.
I like going places where I'm not wanted. So I
Yeah.
take the flute to the Pakistani Cultural Society. But I'm quite sensitive to the fact about, say, Kashmir. Now, I'm not going to win in Kashmir by talking here about it anyway. And
Yeah.
we are friends. Why make it rotten? So I'm sitting in the Pakistani Cultural Society, and 6 people get up and talk against India. I'm just sitting peacefully. So I said, "Why are you looking at me?" They said, "Because you might mind." I said, "I've been here 7 years. People have come and gone. So, I usually have the last laugh."
Well, yes, we've got to stick the finger up occasionally,
but thinking outside the box, the brain with its 3 parts, 5% hindbrain, 10% midbrain, but the 85% forebrain is for you and me to link, people who are different. But are we different? When the thing happened in Baghdad, when which museum was broken and the things were being stolen from there.
Yeah.
In Mesopotamia, I wept. I actually started crying. When they blew up Buddha's statue in Afghanistan, Burmese statues, I wept, because why are you doing this? It's so sad that people can't respect older cultures, because the older cultures have taken a long time building it for you. You don't have to go and worship there if it doesn't suit you, but enjoy it. There's so many theories about the Taj Mahal, but it's beautiful. I don't care who made it. It's beautiful.
Yeah, we should celebrate. I mean, we should celebrate.
Woman to lighten
we should celebrate each other's differences, and the more we're able to do that, and with respect and understanding.
But that's how you grow.
Yeah.
Yes, that's how you grow. So I've always done the odd thing. I lived on my surgery premises. I lived on top of my premises, and in 35 years, 4 people came to my door. Nobody bothers. English people are very shy. They're not like Indians and Pakistanis. Doctor in the midnight, they think they're doing me a favor. Me speaking no English. but once you're tough, it works, I went to see a Jewish lady whose husband was the mayor of Newcastle once upon a time. I knocked on the door and she says, "Is Dr. Koplovitz not coming?" I said, "Do I look like Dr. Koplovitz?" Means F you, And either, and that really put the cat among the pigeons. They knew that this fellow is not for pushing. You treat him well, he'll treat you well. Otherwise, you see, unfortunately, a lot of Jewish people have internalized racism. They've had badness done to them, this generation or last or whichever, and they take it out on whoever they can. But not with me, matey. Not with me. So, and I think, we should stand up. And I think it's about being genuine. I mean, I've lost a lot. I mean, I catalog them. My youngest son committed suicide 13 years ago. My second wife then left. I lost 500,000 pounds to an English company. And English companies don't cheat. It's only Indians and Pakistanis who cheat. No, they cheat with lots of zeros behind it.
And Iraqis as well. And Iraqi companies as well.
Yes. Well, so I don't know enough Iraqis to be cheated or to cheat them. So, but I decided that I'm not going to become an alcoholic. Why? I mean, because this fellow said, I've lost my job. My wife's left me with a milkman. My daughter's pregnant. My son's lost his school place. Why should I be depressed as well? So it's all an internal process,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I fell. You might have noticed on Saturday when I was going to Spice, I was running 10 miles or whatever, and I fell on my chin, on my nose, and this. And I was bleeding. And immediately a fellow came and said, "Hello, I'm Les. Do you remember me, doc?" I said, "Yes." "Can I take you somewhere?" And I'm bleeding, you know. So I said, "Take me to Spice." And I did the show just like that. Now, that did two things. One, it confirmed to me how strong I am. But the Conservative Party people who are watching, they're saying, "Oh, this fellow, you can't push him around."
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, strength is a thing that will get us through this, essentially. Strength, you know,
so
and you know, the
with,
internal process.
While we are talking about the internal dynamics, is Boris Johnson can do what he can, Rishi Sunak can do, the chief medical scientific, they can deal with the outside.
Yeah.
The inside we should be dealing with. We are the prime minister of our body. Have you heard of Sadhguru, SADGHU? I occasionally, when I get the chance, I listen to him because he talks about that only. And interestingly, I've gone to, I'll show you a book. I was so impressed with all these books, you know, the truth about.
You should get my book then on there as well.
Which one?
My book, Physician on Fire.
Not yet, but it will. And this book really touched me, why zebras don't get ulcers.
Yes.
So I've spoken to Sapolsky. I've been to America 3 times to the company that makes this gadget, which measures heart rate variability. And I dictated a book to my sister. So this was the first edition in India in 1993. No, more than that, 1995. And then this came out in 2000. And that's my sister and me. So
wow.
So she's an English teacher. And by the way, while we're on the topic, that's my mother and me when I was 2 years old.
Lovely.
In the picture behind me.
Is that a drawing or a
No, it's
picture?
a photograph.
Oh, wow.
It's a photograph. Yeah. My father took it in a studio. And, you know, there's some pictures which are iconic that touch you. So my strength comes from my mother.
Yes.
And my romance comes from my father. So in a way, my father was my mother and my mother was my father.
Yes.
So you can take, but my father wasn't very strong, and my mother wasn't very chatty. So I have stolen these qualities from my parents. I had my mother on radio. My mother was an author. I haven't got her book here. My mother was an author at the age of 15.
Wow.
And I went to meet Theresa May with the Sikhs. So with my right hand, I said, "Ma'am, this is from one strong lady to another. My mother in British colonial India." And she was quite impressed. She took the book. Then she went behind me and there were these 4 Sikh people from Newcastle, like puppies standing there. And what is the first question? "And where are you from?" They said, "Newcastle." So I said, "Ma'am, that's just south of Scotland." And Theresa May turned and said, "I know." I like teasing them, you know, because these people up there high ups, they must be bored with boring topics, you know.
Yeah. You've got to ruffle a few feathers. I need to send you a copy of my book, actually. I'm going to send you a copy of my book. You'll like it.
Please do it.
Because there's a lot of Iraqi banter there.
Okay. I'm just looking at the time.
So we're coming towards the end, aren't we? We're coming towards the end of this recording. And
I've now learned how to change the settings. If I touch your nose, you become big and I become small. Did you know that? I've just realized that.
Well, you know, I am kind of slightly Jewish myself, so yeah.
I'm very Jewish, like Peter Sellers. "Oh, doctor, I'm in trouble. Oh, goodness gracious me." You know, I crack racist jokes, very gentle ones. When someone says, "Coffee black or white," I say brown will do. And I show my...
Well, you know, they're not really racist. They're more, you know, they're just colourful jokes.
Yeah. Oh, so why do they get so het up about and worried about walking on eggshells? You know?
No, just colourfully. Just, you know, we like colour. There's a bit of colour there.
All right, yes.
Okay, my friend.
So I look forward to you when?
Saturday, maybe.
Saturday at 11 again.
Okay, my friend.
You decide the topic. You know, we both know, we are both doctors. We are similar ilk. So, and the
No, you're my teacher. You're my teacher, doctor.
No. Thank you for such kind words. But what I want to say is we inspire and fire off each other.
Yes, I think so.
And we never stick to the topic, do we?
No. We never stick because, you know, we're like, you know, the special sauce, you know, the special juice. We have lots of it, but it sticks everywhere.
It sticks everywhere, and it's like a chameleon. It changes color to
well, we got to, you know. I'm married, so I got to keep changing.
All
Super
right.
excited.
Okay. So thank you very much.
Okay, my friend.